So let's get rolling. Thanks again for being part of the podcast today, Daryl and Kristi. I know both of you don't know each other, so it would be great for you to introduce yourself, but also, of course, for the audience. Kristi, if you want to start.
Yeah, sure. So I am Kristi Rowles, a good friend of Marcio's. He and my husband, Nick, are good friends, and it's been fun to get to know him and the work of this industry. That was all brand new to me. So I am trained as a mental health therapist and now work primarily as a coach with a tool it's a personality typing tool called the 𝘫𝘦𝘭𝘵. So I mostly do coaching now. I have some online courses and whatnot, but mental health is my life and my love. So I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. And Daryl, and you can also probably, Daryl, share with the audience how did this conversation started too?
Sure. Well, I'm Daryl Possberg from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada, and my family is in the ice-wean business, and we produce. We've got about 18,000 sows right now. We sell to the U.S., sell into Ontario. I've got a breeding stock farm. That's on the pig front. On the personal front, I've got a wife and 7 beautiful kids. Or beautiful wife and 7 great kids. Maybe I should say that. And I guess how we got to talking about this, the whole mental health thing is, I guess I've been reflecting upon the past few months, and I've been looking at some of the resources and some of the conference materials that I've been going through, and there's a whole bunch of great stuff out there and all sorts of aspects of pig production. There's some great stuff on nutrition. There's great stuff on, there's great genetic stuff. There's great stuff on welfare, on all these different aspects of it. And then, we go through the last year that we've been through, and, it's been a hard year for people. It's been a hard year mentally. And I reached out to you, Marcio, because I thought, man, I think this is something that in this industry, I don't think we talk about a lot. And it's something that once you start talking about, it sounds like it's on a whole lot of people's minds. So right. I thought, this is probably as good an avenue as any to start getting the word out about some things and just at least start the conversation.
Absolutely. No, I love it. Yeah. So I think Kristi is not from our industry. So I share with her what happened in the last 12 months less than 12 months when it came to COVID and the business side of things, but also the packing plant side of things and needing to, some producers had to euthanize some pigs and so that stuff, but also the business side, right? So yeah, I don't know where you guys want to start. Any insights there, Daryl or Kristi?
Well, I guess to put a bit more into it, on the pork side. I mean, you start with not knowing what's going to happen with coronavirus, and the market tanked so fast, and and there was people having sleepless nights about the economics of the business. Mm-hmm. And then it was, sort of the second round well, the economics are bad, but am I even going to be able to sell my animals? Mm-hmm. And then you had people having to make some tough choices and some tough, planning to do things. And, we're in the livestock industry here, and we get up every day to produce food for people, mm-hmm. Not to euthanize healthy animals if there's not a home for them. And there's a lot of people that had to go through that thing. And you're getting through some of that stuff. And in the background here, you've got this pandemic where, the people that you have been talking to, it's getting harder and harder to sit down and to talk with other producers face to face. And so this has been a tough run for a lot of people in this business. And you know, and I know myself. I mean, there's been nights where it's 3 a.m., your eyes are open, and it's like there's a lot going on.
Yeah, I think one of the hardest parts about this whole season for lots of people among industries, even before you had to make those hard decisions financially or regarding the pigs, is the fear that comes with being out of control. And with a pandemic coming that was, for whatever reason, came out into our country or out into the world the way that it did, it has forced us all into survival mode versus strategic productive mode, which is where business people live. Like, that's the goal of running a successful business, is being thoughtful, being strategic, getting to plan ahead, knowing what outcomes are going to happen. And this really threw us all for a loop where the predictability that we used to have is no longer available. And so rather than in thriving mode, we're in more of that survival mode or more of that response mode. And then you kind of mentioned it too, not just with that part of feeling out of control and feeling maybe more of anxiety rise up or the panic or the fear rise up, but also then the loneliness too, because usually in hard seasons, like, nobody being with us can take our feelings away, but there's a sense of camaraderie when I'm feeling scared and you're also feeling scared, or I'm feeling upset and you're also feeling upset. But part of the hardship of the pandemic is we can't be together like we normally are. And even when we are, we have masks or whatever it is that just create the sense of separation. Yeah. And then we don't feel like it's a constant reminder that things aren't normal and that I'm not okay and I can't even be not okay with you. So it has really emotionally been a lot. And then not to mention, obviously, then responding to the pigs and caring for them. And I have a good friend who's a farmer in Indiana, and he works primarily with soybeans and corn, but he will say the same thing. He doesn't feel like he farms just to farm, he farms to feed the world. And that feels really like a sacred responsibility to him. And so to feel like that is at risk or taken away, and also now this painful, like heartbreaking decision of inflicting pain on animals that you love and that are your livelihood and that are healthy, that the grief that comes with that is just really astronomical.
Yeah, that's huge. Any insights there, Kristi, on your experience? Like, what are tools and or mental thought processes that can help through some of these situations?
Yeah, so I'll just preface with saying my answers are going to be really therapist-y, right? So, but that's why you brought me on. So I'm going to tell them to you that way, because a lot of things that we are brought up being trained to do have failed us in this time. Things like pull yourself up by your bootstraps, or don't feel your feelings, just push forward. Like, that's not been an option right now, especially because it's been such an elongated season. Like, when we have a really hard week, it's a hard week. You can talk yourself through it and move on. But this has been months and months, and we know will still be months and months. And so there's a tightness or a suffocation that we can't run away from the emotional experience that we're having. So I want to say first, kind of a really basic introduction into grief, because this whole process is really about grief. It's grieving what you thought was going to happen. It's grieving what is going to happen to the animals. It's grieving your own financial well-being, a lot of dreams or vacations even. Personally, there's a lot of grief associated with this whole process. And so a lot of times when we talk about grief, there's like 5 different stages that we identify. And so you can feel really angry. You can bargain, which sometimes has a lot of guilt. Or if you have a higher being in your life, really feeling like, why did God do this? And if only this, or like some of that what ifs. You can be in a place of denial. You can be in a place of acceptance or depression and really succumbing to that. So all 5 of those are really common emotions in this process. And so the biggest tip that it's practical, but it's not going to necessarily make you feel better immediately, is feeling honestly what you're feeling. And I will just say, I tend to be like a let's go, let's move along faster, feel better kind of person. And I remember when I was in my own counseling work, I said to my therapist, we were talking about, I don't even know what, it was very early on. And I said, okay, now that I know that I'm, feeling some sort of way, what do I do about it? And she just kindly looked at me and said, I think we're just going to have to sit here for a little while, which at the time I hated. But in reality, there's a gift to that, because it goes against everything we've been taught. It's about honoring what's honest in ourselves and not avoiding it, not reframing it with a positive just to make ourselves feel better. Of course, there's things that we can do really practically and tangibly, things that what we might call coping strategies or self-support strategies, things like going for a walk with somebody that is maybe quarantining with you, a spouse or a kid or a neighbor that you are quarantining with. It could be painting, it could be cleaning, it could be gardening around your house. Like, it could be anything that you know that you love that brings you to the present moment. Because a lot of times all of our emotions, particularly the emotion of anxiety, which is incredibly heightened right now in this season, is all about the past, what did happen, or the future, what could potentially happen. And we can't control either of those. So really our power or our peace is in the present moment. So when I'm outside and I'm gardening and I feel the dirt between my hands and I'm putting the plant in, right in that moment, I'm okay. The world is okay. I'm at peace. All of my needs are met. And there's a peacefulness there that gets lost when we're panicked about all of the other things that we can't control. But right now in this moment, I can control this. So whether it's, you guys can totally apply it maybe more to your industry or the people maybe based on their hobbies or things that y'all love. But whatever that thing is that brings you a sense of peace, that is a practical thing that needs to be scheduled in consistently. Because sometimes we wait till we're like crying or really angry or really anxious to respond to ourselves. And that's a less helpful way to take care of ourselves. It's more helpful to say, every Monday I'm going for a run. Every Tuesday at 3 to 4 p.m. I'm playing with my kid. Whatever the thing is that makes you feel good and at peace, that needs to be scheduled in just like you'd schedule in a meeting at the office.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, for me, I know for me, for example, when I'm not feeling great, I go for a run, and people talk about that your emotions, it's physiological. So I mean, it's almost like it's hard to be if you go for a run, if you're doing something positive, it's hard to think about the negative. So it's almost that's been very helpful. Any insights there, Daryl, or anything that made sense from your side?
Well, I mean, it's been a while since I've been working every day on farms, but I do know that there was a lot of times that spending 8 hours behind a pressure washer was strangely therapeutic.
Yeah.
And that makes a lot of sense because there's days where you just need to turn your mind off, and you need to be doing something that is just not going to tax you too much, and a little bit of physical exertion, and it just, for whatever reason, it would seem to make everything feel better for a little bit.
Totally. Well, even what you said, Marcio, about our bodies holding things, like what we know, just even when we talk about neuroscience, when we talk about physiology, that our emotions are manifested in our bodies. That's why we get butterflies when we're nervous, or we get headaches when we're stressed. All of our emotions do come out in some sort of way. And so, even when I suggest like feel them, talk about them, I know it sounds very therapy, but it's a way that you can externalize them in a more productive way. Because I always have told clients, if it's not coming out of your mouth, it's going to come out in some other way of your body, whether it's tight shoulders or stomach aches or inability to sleep. When you said, Daryl, you're laying at night with your eyes wide open at 3 a.m., I mean, your body has to exert some of that emotional energy in some ways. And so that's why sometimes, especially if it's some hard labor, like I know when I'm feeling intense, or when I need to be reminded that I do have power sometimes in a world that has felt really powerless, or when I felt really helpless in the pandemic, biking has been huge for me because it's strength-based and I can go faster. And I just kind of remind myself that not only am I letting my body exert some energy and distracting my mind for a little while, but it has a real strong mental effect too, that I can feel good, and I do have power to make a difference in the way that I'm feeling today. Even if today's a certain day and tomorrow's another day, I know that a lot of what I'm hearing from people right now across lots of industries too is just the waves of, I'm feeling overwhelmed, like everything feels hard. I just had a client today say to me, you know, some days I'm waking up feeling energetic and I can crush things and knock tasks out. It's easy as pie. And then tomorrow, the most basic tasks feel like they weigh 1,000,000 pounds. And so just knowing that that's really normal right now, hopefully can normalize some of that and help people feel a little bit less crazy in their experience.
Yeah. One thing that for me has been huge for the last several years is not watching much of the news. You know, there's something called the information diet. So you just do a diet information, right? You try to, there's so much, if you're watching news every night, man, I don't know, that's the first terrible thing, I think. My take is, what I do is, if it's something important enough, I'm gonna know that somewhere, somehow, but that's just me. And the other one is the social media dilemma. If folks haven't watched that on Netflix, the one practical thing is turn off your social media notifications. Please do. That's huge. Daryl, anything else on the topic?
Yeah, I would agree with the some of the comments about the physical exertion, and as well just on the communication piece. And I know there is a counselor that I've seen, and one of the habits that she's got me into was starting my day with a gratefulness journal, and that's three. I got to put down 3 things that I'm grateful for, and before I do anything else, and that changes things, because I know my wife has commented to me that there'd be mornings where my iPhone's beside my bed, and she said, you feel like it seems like you're beaten before you even get out of bed, because you're checking your email, and there's 3-4 things that are going on that you got to deal with that aren't going to be easy, and then that's your day.
You're exhausted before you even roll out of bed.
Yeah. So that was important for me, and I guess, some of the health things as well. I've been a coffee, drink way too much caffeine. Getting rid of that is certainly helped. A lot of a lot less punctuation marks on some of my comments, which is can sometimes cause other problems.
I hear you.
So that's been good, and I guess trying to get in a more regular fitness routine, and just having some exertion every day, it helps a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's such a good point too, with specifically when you said the word routine. I was thinking about that. Whether it's waking up in the morning, whether it's a gratitude journal, or I sit outside peacefully by myself, or I don't look at my phone before 8 a.m. or whatever that needs to be. But it's really hard when we're in a time of stress to make wise decisions for ourselves. So sometimes what I will walk through with clients is, let's step back objectively from your own experience. And if you were planning a day for your friend who kind of woke up like you, had the emotional kind of energy as you, how would you guide them to structure their day in a way that is supportive to them? So it would be easy for me to look at and say, well, obviously you don't look at your phone until you're ready to work. You obviously don't look at your email until you're an hour in and you've already had your hour of creative thinking, or, whatever that looks like for every person. Or you obviously don't sit down and watch 3 hours of news at night. You obviously don't sacrifice your workout routine because, it's more convenient to do something else, or whatever that thing is. And so I'm a big fan of being really strategic prior to and doing a lot of pre-planning, because on a day that's already hard, your ability to make a wise decision for yourself is way lessened. And so being able to be more proactive about, what do I need to feel good tomorrow? And I'm going to make those decisions now is really powerful. So I have, a couple years ago, I needed to go through this health process of figuring out what foods were impacting my body in a bad way. And I realized that I had to cut a few things out. So I'm now gluten and dairy free. But one of the things that I learned in that process was the leader of the process that I did, it was called Whole30. She said, be mindful to not eat things that are going to double punish you. So for example, my mom loves sugar, but sugar gives her, it stimulates her heart palpitations more. So there's a tendency when we're stressed out to have comfort foods, like for me, gluten, bread. I love a good piece of bread. For my mom, sugar. And those things feel good in the moment, but they are going to double punish me in a way, in the sense of what my mood's going to be like later. For my mom, it's her heart palpitations. For me, it's my ability to think clearly and feel energetic the next day. So anyway, that idea of being thoughtful and saying, this is what I am going to do. This is what I'm not going to do, based on what I know is best for me and is going to set me up for success tomorrow and the next day.
I love it.
That routine, the planning of the routine, is a really practical way that people can take more control over their time and what feels good.
Yes. Are you familiar, Daryl, or maybe you, Kristi? He's from Canada. It's a clinical psychologist. His name is Jordan Peterson.
I think I've heard of him, yeah.
He's somewhat of a polemic folk there. I think, is it Guelph, or forgot which university he's out of, but
Toronto is Rotman.
Toronto. Probably the most famous clinical psychologist on YouTube, and he talks exactly what he said when it comes to setup. Have a routine, but it doesn't have to be a terrible routine. Meaning, like, when you think about routine and schedule, you think like, that's terrible. Well, set something up that you like.
Yes.
There, and or like you said, set something up if it was for someone that you cared about, right? So that kind of stuff. And the other one there you mentioned about gratitude, and just want to emphasize that one. I never dig the literature on that one, but I do believe there's some science behind it. And Kristi can probably chime in on that, and I've done too. And just I need to get on the routine on that one. I had phases of consistent every day, but that's I like that a lot.
Yeah, it really is about, to some degree, what you look for is what you see. And so if you are, specifically when we talk about gratitude for Daryl, if he knows I'm going to have to write a list of things I'm grateful for tomorrow morning, then now his eyes are focused on today, what good things are happening today, because I'm going to have to write about them tomorrow. And so it kind of just piques your eyes and recenters your mind on the blessings, the things that feel good, the things that are hopeful and positive.
Very good. One thing that I wanted to get you guys' thoughts, and I know Kristi has a business, but also they're being a producer, because I know we talked a lot so far about potential solutions and ways to go through it, but the question is about thinking about the financial burden that happened, and also the packing plan, right? So the financial burden there any, from your experience with business, what would be your insights, right? From hey, this is what you were doing in order to avoid the problem or a bankruptcy next time around. Because again, life as a whole is unstable. That's the way it is. Things are like that. That's going to be another one. You can even argue that this one was not even that hard, honestly. When you look at overall death percentage in the global population was probably just a trial run, if you want to call it that, honestly. Not being pessimistic here, but from a business standpoint, any insights there, Daryl, and also from a packing plan standpoint, anything that you've seen that folks have done to fix it in order to not have that problem again?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess from a producer standpoint, I mean, I guess doubly blessed because I was in an organization that went through, well, in the US, it was Chapter 15 bankruptcy, and in Canada, it was the CCAA Act, which is a court-ordered restructuring. So that was one blessing. So I got some experience as to what that's like. And the second blessing was that it was not with my money. So, so that was good, because I was able to learn a lot about, about approaches and what are things that are required in order to stay out of that position going forward. And yeah, I mean, I think actually you'd done a podcast very recently with Brad Frecking on, how much should you have available for you in case bad stuff happens? What's your bad stuff fund need to look like? And his numbers actually track, he talked about on a farrow to finish basis. I'm on a farrow to 𝘰𝘶𝗏 basis. And, if you look at 26 to 28% of the cost of raising an animal being the front end, having a 2-year, 2-year amounts corresponding to that $100 a market hog basis.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's not a bad strategy to have going in.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, on the financial side, it's, yeah, I mean, you got to have a real plan, and that plan starts with access to cash. It actually starts even before that with having the right people involved in your business, because if you have owners that are constantly wanting to strip out all the cash in the business, then you're setting yourself up for, like, you're not even going to get a proper capital plan because you're not going to have alignment to begin with. And thankfully, I think sort of the people that are still in business right now, a lot of them they understand that message. And so, from a financial perspective, I think that there's a lot more producers that are in better shape or had been in better shape going into this thing. And processors, a lot of these companies are very big companies. A lot of them are very well funded and have the right people in the ownership seats. So, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of them are in pretty good shape going into this thing.
And when you talk about having the, not taking all the money out of the business, do you have a good rule of thumb for that?
Well, I mean, a lot of companies, how they have them structured is 25% of taxable net income,
mm-hmm.
which, that's a common one that's out there. And so, I mean, if you've had like rolling forward losses, if you have 1 year where you're making money, you're still not taxable. So, that money rolls forward.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of what I do is I look at, I look at the USDA rolling average on formula prices, and I put my own, what I think my cost of production is in there. And then I just go and say, okay, well, if I was on the biggest losing run for the last 5 years, this is how much I would need to have in the bank. And oh, by the way, if I got PED or PERS
mm-hmm.
In the middle of it, then what does that number look like? And so that's kind of how I position, our own, worst case scenario planning.
Very good. Any insights on the packing plan side? Have you seen any change when it comes to that supply chain reliability?
Yeah, I mean, we've been very fortunate up here in Canada, and that for the most part, the coronavirus issues were, although they have been intense in certain regions, certainly in Western Canada, there has not been nearly the amount of coronavirus issues in Canada as what there was in the Midwest plants. So, just by not having that
mm-hmm.
that constraint there, that's been positive. And Canadian processors, and you got to give them a real you got to give them some praise, because they've really been very well prepared for these things. And they were prepared from doing things like their own processor owned hogs. They were marketing lighter in case something bad had to happen, and there was there's been some informal collaboration among some of the processors to say, okay, well, if I go down, can you help out here and take some of this? And so yeah, I mean, our guys have handled it. They've handled it really well. They've been transparent. They've shared best practices with each other. No, they've done a really nice job on this one.
Nice. Do you think we're out of the hole?
Well, I mean, the German ASF thing kind of helps. The North American situation. I mean, it's terrible for the German industry, but I mean, I think we were in recovery. I mean, I've heard all sorts of estimates as to how many pigs are actually out there and how many are still, slowdowns that haven't come. I just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we were starting to come out of this thing, with, once the packing plants got fired up, and just with the strength of the export thing here, it's that's kind of been the lift that the industry is needed to at least get some of the farmers back in black, and certainly on the U.S. side, I mean, there's been some government support to some of the smaller producers, which is helpful, right? I mean, they've got support there that didn't happen up here in Canada, but certainly it's that combined with a bit of certainly the cash prices coming back. It's been good. It'd be better if the futures market bought into it and there was more pricing opportunities for people to lock up some profits. But I don't think 2021 is going to be a fantastic year, but I think it's going to be a year where people are going to make money.
Anything else, guys, before we're on the topic, before we start quickly here with the 3 questions that I ask every guest? Anything else on this topic, Kristi, of mental health overall? Any departure thoughts there?
I mean, there's always a part of me that wants to add in the caveat that our world has made a lot of progress in terms of normalizing mental health treatment or care or attention. Sometimes we just still have a lot of work to do with that. So I guess my last note is just, if anybody is listening who is struggling, give yourself the gift of letting somebody help you heal. You would not withhold yourself from going to the doctor if you had a broken leg or if you had consistent stomach aches for weeks. And so if you are struggling, if you're having a lot of just repeated thoughts or inability to sleep, or you just feel really sad and hopeless or helpless, or feeling darker thoughts, whatever is going on, you're normal and it's okay, and there's hope, and allow yourself to let somebody love you and help you through that. So reach out to somebody local. My recommendation always, if you are interested, is ask people in your circle if you're comfortable with that. Hey, who have you seen? Like, if you have a friend or a family member who has seen a therapist or a counselor of some sort, ask them, like, who do you know in the area? Or if you're not comfortable seeing them, ask them to ask their therapist. So just start with some personal references, and then Google, thank God for Google. So just hop on there and look for people in your area too, but don't struggle by yourself. We're meant for connection as human beings. And so just want to encourage you to be tender to yourself in this time and know that you're normal, and reach out if somebody can help. Very
good. And what's your Instagram so folks can find you there?
Yeah, so I am at Full and Free Enneagram. I'll spell that last word. So full, the idea is becoming your full and your free self in the world. So that last part, confusing word, is spelled ENNEAGRAM. And that is the personality tool that I work with a lot with clients now. So Full and Free Enneagram. Would love to get to know you out there.
Perfect. And Daryl, any parting thoughts, as well as any questions that we didn't cover that you'd like Kristi to touch to wrap up on this topic?
No, I mean, I think your wrap up was great there, Kristi. I think, and the one thing that you mentioned that was that kind of struck home for me is, making the analogy to someone with a broken leg or a broken arm, because it's not only what you feel and what gives you the signals to go and get help, but it's how other people perceive you. And that's part of the problem as well too, because you see someone with a cast on their arm or a cast on their leg and everybody knows, right? It's like, okay, this is a problem. This person has got pain. This person is in recovery, and there's still, sadly, it doesn't work that way with mental health. And I don't know what the solution is to that, but that is certainly something that I wish there was a better path forward for.
Slow and steady. I think that it is, as the more people do it, and even this conversation, I feel when Marcio told me that y'all wanted to have this conversation, it warmed my heart, because mental health is now something that we can't run from, especially this year, whereas a lot of times in the past, people have been able to overlook it or avoid it. But right now, in our world, we're calling this a collective trauma globally. And so we're all in it together. And so part of it is saying, I'm struggling, and then letting somebody around you say, thank you, me too, and we start to normalize it. And so it is just a slow and steady process of doing that. So over time, hopefully it'll become more and more normal. But I think even conversations like this help move the needle. So thanks for even sharing that you're working with somebody, Daryl, and that he or she has encouraged you to do a gratitude journal. And that takes bravery and courage. And I'm thankful.
I love it. Awesome. So let's see your pig related book, Daryl, that you prefer the most.
Right now, honestly, it's the Sow and Guilt Manual from PIC. They update the thing on a fairly regular basis, and I find myself flipping through that thing quite often.
Very good. And Kristi, I'm sure you don't have a pig related book, but the second question is, Kristi, if you're just in general, what's been the best book you ever read?
Oh my goodness. Wow. Well, one of the book that probably changed my life the most was written by Dr. Brene Brown. She is a researcher in shame, which sounds really depressing, but her work is really powerful in terms of emotional healing and also vulnerability. And so she wrote, her most popular book is called Daring Greatly, and it's phenomenal. So that one of her earlier books is called The Gifts of Imperfection. Both of them are phenomenal. So I would say those.
I love it. I haven't read the books yet, but her TED Talk is great. Yeah. Super cool. And then Daryl, how about you?
Probably the most challenging book that I've read is a book called The Imitation of Christ, 𝘵𝗺𝗫 𝗵𝗃. I think that was written in 14 something, but it's still, you pick it up, you read it. It's a devotional that is very challenging every day. And I just recently, I came upon Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, and that's also it's a very, very good, very challenging read. It's easily accessible, but there's a lot of very powerful insight in that one.
Yeah, that was a tough process there on that book. Yeah, for sure. Awesome. And then lastly, Kristi, in your opinion, what sets apart successful professionals from those that are not?
Self-awareness. I believe that particularly our success relies on our ability to understand our own strengths and weaknesses, even more so if we lead a team of people. And so, I think that Miles Adcox, who's the leader of a amazing program down in Tennessee, says self-awareness is our superpower. And I think that's even more so true in business and success.
I love it. Do you know, Daryl, if in most farms, every employee would get any type of personality assessment like DISC or other?
It would depend on the organization. I know we've done 𝘁𝗵𝗏 testing with our managers. If you're familiar with how that matrix works, but that's not quite self-awareness stuff. But we have everyone go through it, and I guess it is self-awareness on one level, but it's also within the group is, okay, where do we go, and what comes natural to us, and where do we tend to go with information?
Interesting. Yeah, we've been doing a lot of the 16 personalities, which I think is the Myers-Briggs and DISC as well in our team. And it's helpful because you super understand. I mean, when I started to date my wife, I made her do a personality test.
My goodness.
Okay. I'll give you the back. We were dating for 6 months. They're like, this is cool. I do it. But it's so crazy because you sometimes it's easier, and the more you learn about it, you kind of you get a better feel for which type of personalities people are. But for me, in the case of her, I was like, wow, I'm very much more task oriented, not as much people oriented. She's the opposite, and that was super interesting to learn. So cool. Daryl, any final insights on what do you think sets apart successful swine professionals from those that are not?
Yeah, I think the ability to listen is super important because, when you get to the point where you are either a consultant or a business owner or whatever, someone who's selling something, a big part of it is understanding where your client's at or where your stakeholders are at. And if you're able to truly listen and truly understand what people's objectives are, it really helps. It really helps to understand where they can be a fit and where they can either help you or not help you get to where you need to be. Mm-hmm. And as Dr. David Bishop once told me a long time ago, he said the value of any idea is in the quality of its implementation. Mm-hmm. And so, being able to listen and have humility is very important in that. And some of the most successful people that I know in this business are people that really embody that that ability to take information in and really be patient listeners.
I love it. Yeah. Awesome, my friends. I appreciate it's been great, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks. Nice to meet you, Daryl.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you, guys.
Imagine if, with a few key concepts, you could have the potential to create a massive positive impact by bringing from hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars for swine producers. Join us on this small group and go to the next level of swine nutrition on this 7-week-long elite online training in applied swine nutrition and feeding by myself and my world-class invited speakers. Additionally, you enjoy an exclusive community to exchange ideas. Go now to www.eliteswinenutritionist.com.